Frogman Friday.
Yeah, boy.
What's up, everyone? It's that time again. Welcome to the Frogman Friday show.
Presented by Transcend, the best peptide and hormone therapy. They put your health first so you can live more and worry less. Go to transcendcompany.com/Birdman to begin your wellness transformation today.
Today, our badass guest is Ajay James. He served over 20 years as a Navy SEAL, retiring as a senior chief. He founded Ajay James Group, LLC in 2021, located in San Diego, California. You can follow Ajay on IG and LinkedIn, and to take a deeper dive, go check out jamesgroupllc.com. Fast note, he actually played himself as a Navy SEAL in a motion picture called Act of Valor while serving as an active duty Navy SEAL. Very rare. Brother, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Birdman.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate it.
So good to see you, dude.
Yeah, man. No, it's cool to see you as well, especially because I follow you a lot. I'm particularly interested in all the crazy things that you do. It's actually pretty admirable. I'm not trying to do anything that you're doing right now. That's all crazy. All that jumping out in the plane business. Yeah. After work, I'm good. I don't need to do that anymore.
You're funny, man, because let me tell you a quick short story about AJ. So you were at Team 5 when I was at Team 7. And I remember you were like, hey, do you want to come work out with me today at the gym? And I was like, yeah, let's go. And first of all, you were introducing me to these movements that I had never seen before. And I'm like any typical younger team guy, like, yeah, let's go. Dude, you hammered me so bad, and I just didn't want to look like a pussy. So I ended up was like, thanks, man. It's awesome. Maybe again soon. I walked away damn near crying, man.
Damn. I don't even remember that. Why didn't you tell me? Now I feel bad.
Because I don't want to look like a pussy in front of my homies. So
what was that, a Thai boxing workout or something that we did?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, yeah. Was
the...
it the Boss Rutan one?
Yes.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, Boss Rutan. Shout out Boss Rutan.
There you go.
Yeah,
all right, so let's dig in, man. Tell me, you got a whole career, and this is something I admire so much about guys like you. You stick with things for a long period of time. You've got dedication, and you've got an incredible backstory, which I want to send some other stories for people to understand who you are, where you come from, and how you've achieved so much in your life. But let's start at the point of I'm getting out of the service after a full career. What does your transition look like?
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. I started to get really frustrated with how things were. And then, being selfish, actually, I did my team lead at SEAL Team 5. I loved it. But then when they decide, hey, you're no longer going to be a team lead, now you're going to go and be, upper leadership. So possibly being an SEA or doing whatever else at the command. I felt kind of one of those things because I saw another one of our brothers. He was able to get another team lead, and and it's feast or famine. Either you didn't do well in your team lead, or they really needed to keep some people, and he was just a lucky guy that got to stay at the command. And so then I started questioning myself, like, well, did I suck? I don't know. Why didn't I get that chance? But I was like, you know what? I can't worry about things. I completed that step, which was the jump off for me to be able to become an E8. When I decided I wanted to get out, a lot of it was just like, yeah, you already know I'm like old as dirt. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to stay in as this like crotchety old man, in the teams? And there's plenty of them. And God bless them, those guys that stay in like, until they're like 70, which is amazing that dudes can do that. But I just didn't want to be that guy. I remember there was this one time, 2005. No, it's either 2005 or 2000. I think it was 2005. I was coming back home for the birth of one of my kids, and I saw this super old grizzled Marine guy with his Marine flak jacket and his sea bag full of stuff. And, I guess he was like a contractor, his old M16 without anything cool, no nothing. It was just iron sights. And I saw this guy and I was like, why is this guy hanging on? Like, and I was like, I'm never going to be that guy. When I hit 20 years, then I'll do a reset and decide whether or not if this is what I want to continue doing. But why wouldn't I get out? Because, there's so much that's available. And, there's a lot of opportunities that come up for people like us. And if you stay in, those opportunities are very fleeting and they just go by you. And sometimes they're really hard to recoup. If you stay in, yeah, absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that. It's noteworthy. You're staying for the cause. You're keeping the experience in the command. You're keeping the experience in the teams. You're helping to foster and rear up the new SEALs that are coming in. But on some level, I just was like, well, you know what? I mean, I'm gonna be irrelevant within the next 2 years because if I'm not doing workups or if I'm not doing this or that, I'm starting to become irrelevant as we speak. And I was just like, you know what? I like what I've done. I like where I've been. Now it's time to try and go and explore. Before I was in the Navy, I was hustling a lot, living in New York City, traveled all over the world, did a bunch of different things, and it just was calling me to try and go back out and do something. Now, asking me what that exactly was, had no idea what the heck that was going to end up being. But what I wanted to do was just, now that I decide I'm going to get out, I'm going to leave the military with skills that I didn't necessarily have before. But now I'm going to be a lot more capable and just have a little bit more control over what it is that I can do and what I can specialize in. And again, it didn't necessarily have to be something tactical or military centric. You can do anything, and so that's what I've been enjoying the hustle again. And the reason why I've been enjoying the hustle again is just because it's very similar to pro dev. You never know what you're going to get. Every day is going to be constantly different. There's going to be challenges with everything that you do. And then the hard thing about it, but it's like, okay, how do I figure that piece out? Is you don't always get paid for all the things that you try and go do with people. So sometimes it's free. Sometimes you get like a little tiny pittance, but then other times, you do well. And I've been fortunate to be able to do well in certain things. But then there's other things where it's like, okay, that consistency of the money, because as well as I do, when you're in the Navy, 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year, you don't even have to go to work if you don't want to. You could sit there and do a phone muster, text message muster, and you're getting paid. That's not how it works when you go out into the civilian world. And just getting back into that hustle and into that rhythm again, I find that a great challenge, and that's what I wanted to go do.
That's awesome that you explained it. Well, first, before even touching on that, I wanted to say, you say, be this old, decrepit man. Dude, you don't age, okay? I don't want to hear this stuff. Like, you have never aged. It's unbelievable, and it makes me pissed off. So there's that. I've said it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
For sure, man. And you've always excelled at everything. I mean, you were always one of those guys who was just always, everything you did, everybody was talking about you. At least at Team 7, we're like, how's he do this stuff, So, and you're one of the few Navy SEALs that's not just a gunfighter, but also a true hand-to-hand guy, and you can actually fight with your hands. This is something that I had to explain to a good friend of mine. He's like, dude, train me in hand-to-hand. How do you take people down, do some smooth secret squirrel stuff? And I'm like, shoot them.
Yeah,
shoot them.
Literally, shoot them. Yeah, I mean, it's very simple. Yeah, do the thing that's going to get it done fastest.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
All right, we got James Group LLC. So talk to me. You've transitioned. You have rolled into this, and I'll actually, before I even ask that, there's a funny story I wanted to share with you. I don't know if you remember this. So we were all asked to go out to the Transformers set to go do like something, a walk around in Hollywood to potentially be in the Transformers movie.
Sure.
David Metcalf and you and I, and there's a couple other guys. It was my first time to Hollywood. It was my first time seeing a set. It was just like, okay, cool. What am I doing here? This sounds fun. And I said yes because I'm with the guys. I don't know the first thing about what I'm doing there. And then they started having guys like try on the ACU tops and that. Everything fit you guys, but it was like an extra large on me. And they looked at me and they're like, yeah, he's probably not going to be one of them. I was just swimming in it. So that was my one and only taste of Hollywood. I got there. I was immediately turned around and sent home. I think I got like $3 for that day of pay. And then that was it.
Nah, man. That's sad. That's a sad story. But you know what though? You're doing cooler stuff right now. So
It's all
kudos.
good. It's all good,
Kudos to
man.
you.
I appreciate you, brother.
Kudos. Yeah, definitely, man. So James Group LLC is kind of it just highlights what I just said that I'm doing with myself right now. I'm opening myself up to, a corporate coaching, executive protection, mentorship, coaching and mentorship type stuff. I've been doing some stuff with Remy Adeleke. Do you know him?
Yep.
Okay, yep. So I've been doing some stuff with Remy Adeleke. And then the other stuff is just, of course, obviously having an LLC just for tax purposes. I'm trying to become smarter with my money. I've been pretty good with it, but just opening myself up to other opportunities. I've been doing some speaking engagements, trying to get a little bit more of those speaking engagements and stuff like that. And that's been actually pretty fun. Um, Trying to get a little bit more. I have to give a shout out to Clint Bruce, who I've been kind of holding out on for a little bit. You know what? I'm gonna admit something. Clint, incredible speaker. I'm sure you might have seen him speak. Great supporter of the teams. He was a former team guy himself. He's like, AJ, hey, I want you to get out and come on my speaking circuit and blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, great. Clint sends me his reel of one of his speeches that he did. And you know how you were just saying just now, like, oh, I can't do anything in front of the camera, like live. Yeah, that's what I got when I saw Clint speaking. And then it was just like, how the hell do I follow that up? How do I say anything? And then, I had to realize to myself, it's not really about following Clint up, because my story is completely different from Clint. And so now I was like, okay, I've got to re-engage with him. I've got to like get back onto it. But he's the one that kind of sparked that whole idea of maybe doing speaking engagements, just because I think I have a little bit of a different take than a lot of the other guys, who are former frogmen who are doing speaking engagements. I absolutely have a different take. So I want to do a little bit more of that. But James Group LLC, it's just about me lending my knowledge, my capabilities, and just anything that people need. If I can't do something, I can point them in the right direction. You know what I mean? So I'm good in terms of leading people to resources, but then also to, if there's something that I can do that, people will find, that they are in sync with my capabilities. Yeah, that's what I want to try to offer to people.
Okay. Well, public speaking, that's an interesting one because, you've lived a career of having to live in the shadows and really not discussing publicly what you do. And then we get into speaking. You're like, well, what you realize with speaking is that your voice is your most powerful tool. It's not your gun. It's not your tactics. It is your voice. And if you choose to use it correctly, you can influence and you can do things on a big scale.
Yeah.
So funny story about Clint Bruce. So when I got to Texas, I met Clint and I actually started with him at Trident. And the funny thing was he was like, hey, Bird, we got to go give a speech to JP Morgan Chase. And I'm like, cool. It's cool. I was like, I want you to piggyback this with me. And I'm like, all right, sounds good. So Clint is one of the best speakers I've ever heard. I don't know how the heck that dude can formulate the words he does. Like his brain just goes into a different mode when he speaks, and it's unreal.
Yeah.
But his planning is quite the opposite. So there we are. I walk into the office in the morning, and I'm just like in a tank top. I got this long hair at the time. I was like, I don't know why. I just decided to grow out surfer hair, and then I had board shorts on and sandals, and it's a nonchalant day. And then I was like, hey, Clint, when's that speech with JP Morgan Chase? I know it's coming up. And he's like, oh, shit. I'm like, what, did we miss it? Did we miss it? And he's like, it's today. It's in 3 hours. And I'm like, you're joking. And he's like, I could see the fear in his eyes. And I'm like, and this is like 2011. So I'm like, I'm clearly not ready. And he goes, dude, we got to go right now. We bolt over to this store. Both of us buy suits. Legitimately, they don't fit. We shoot over to JP Morgan Chase. We're standing in the back of the room. They tell us to come up on stage. We nail it. I mean, we do a good job. Clint obviously carries it. And then I was just like feeding in little things of like my time in the service. And then afterwards we're getting done and I'm talking with the guy who is hosting it. And I was like, so you been at JP Morgan Chase long? And he's like, oh yeah, been a while. So it happened to be Jamie Dimon, the CEO. I'm like, great, let's just get out of here right now. So that was my encounter with speaking with Clint. But yes, I've heard
That's
him
funny.
speak over the years, and he's amazing. And I'm glad you're
Yeah.
doing it too, because you have a unique perspective. You have a completely different world traveled. There's a lot to it, man. So I can't wait to hear one of your speeches soon. So is there anywhere I can check those things out, or where can I see all the things that you're doing right now?
I don't necessarily have anything collated. That's something that I'm gonna try or attempt to start putting together. But if I do, it'll probably end up being on James Group.
Okay.
So I'll let you know when that's come together. So for sure.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I've been watching your LinkedIn posts, man, and you're sharing out a lot of good word. You're pushing out a lot of good word on teammates and what they're doing. And, I know the Honor Foundation was a unique thing to go through and to get that
Hmm.
out there. So you're in the right direction, man. Like, one thing you should help with guys, because you're doing it right, is how you transition. You should be introducing that to guys that are getting ready to get out, because you've done a smooth transition. Never heard a story about you falling off the rails and going dark and all the stuff that we hear constantly.
Yeah.
So you're an advocate, and a lot of guys from my era, which I was in your era, we look up to you, man.
Well,
So
I appreciate that. What I will say in terms of the transition piece, and then also, you know, one of the biggest things that I think we as frogmen, we have, I don't want to say it's a complex, but we have an expectation that it's so first time every time. That's one of the things that we've always heard in our minds about when we're doing evolutions, first time every time, or don't be in the goon squad and this and that. So there's a lot of things we place so much expectation on ourselves. So that makes things potentially very difficult, if you will. One of the things that I think we all need to do is when we get out of the military, we have to understand that life does not move the pace that the military did. If I want to go to get something done, if I need to get something from supply, if I need to go and talk to another command and coordinate to do something, we can get things done within a week. The civilian world does not work that way. So when you say, like, okay, hey, what's your 5-year plan? I think a lot of us expect that, oh yeah, within 3 months, I'm such a super badass frogman, I can do anything. It doesn't necessarily work that way. And you may have to actually fully go your full 5 years before you find the thing that's letting you take over, where you're like, okay, I'm making money now. I'm feeling like, okay, I'm not stressed about when my next dollar is going to come in. I mean, even me, like, the other day I had a bill, not necessarily bill, something that I was supposed to be paying into, and my bank account said that I didn't have enough money. So I've got my retirement. I don't even, it's like poof, it vanishes. Like I don't even know what it looks like. It goes right into my mortgage and other things. So I have no idea what this money looks like or where it goes. So all the other money that I make right now, it's like I gotta hunt for that money, right? So my bank account tells me that I don't have this thing, and I'm sitting there stressing. But okay, I just worked. I'm waiting, 2 weeks for that money to clear. I'm out here right now doing this thing. And then I've got another job lined up. And then I got another job lined up. So it's kind of cool to be able to see all those things lining up. But the stress and the agita that you get from knowing that you have something that's pending that you don't have control over at that time because the one piece, the link piece, is not there. Sometimes that's a bit stressful. Where within the military, you don't have that stress. You know you're going to get it done. You talk with whoever, you get the thing done. I don't have somebody to go talk to like, hey, accounts payable. Yeah, sorry, go wait. Can't do nothing about that. You know what I mean? So just the biggest thing that if anyone can take away is when you have your time that you decide you're going to get out, fully expect to take 3 years, 5 years, fully expect to go that whole route before you start getting yourself settled. Don't think that it's going to happen in one day. That's probably the biggest piece of information I can give.
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Man, so you got it on LinkedIn that you're freelance and you're doing a bunch of stuff. So I want to make sure I get this straight. So you obviously are doing acting, and I'm certain that you're doing stunts on top of the acting.
Yes.
And then on top of that, you're doing now public speaking. And then you said security. Do you do like actual like teaching and training, or do you actually do like physical security?
So there's some jobs that I end up going on even invariably. Like I have a longtime client who I've been working with in LA and sometimes traveling overseas with for probably the last like 10 years. So I do EP, single man EP with a particular client. And then sometimes I try and jump on some other EP jobs if they're available. It's kind of what's the quote from Shakespeare? Um, it's about jack of all trades. A jack of all trades is better than none,
Master
or
of
something
none.
like, yeah, master of none, but is better than someone who is a master of none, or whatever it is. I forget what it is. I think it's a jack of all trades is a master of none, but better than a master of one, something like that. But there's a quote from Shakespeare. So like I have a bunch of different touch points that I get into. But yeah, sometimes I do EP, but then also too, I've been fortunate to work with a company called Tomahawk Strategic Solutions, and we do some great work teaching SWAT teams and special response teams across the country. What's great about that for me is I feel like I'm giving back, especially because now that I'm not overseas and doing anything overseas, I'm able to give that experience and those data points to those people who really are protecting us. I can't go out there with my body armor and go do things and take over the streets. It's just, it's not Charles Bronson. We don't live in a society like that. Vigilantism, that's looked down upon. But the people that are actually really doing the work, it's good to be able to go and meet them, interface with them, tell them good stories, get lessons learned, and see them grow. I love seeing that happen from the day one when we start doing the training to day 5 or 6 or whatever it is. I love doing that. So yeah, I'm glad that I have the opportunity with Tomahawk to be able to do that.
What is your favorite thing you're doing?
You're gonna laugh if I tell you. The favorite thing that I really like doing is I like being the world's greatest Uber to my son. I bring him to school. So I think I've got 3 boys, right? My
Yep.
oldest is 26, my middle is 19, and my youngest is 15. My 26-year-old, he's a Coronado Beach lifeguard for almost 9 years right now. My middle son is a D1 rugby player at St. Mary's College up in Moraga. And my youngest is a 4-time world champion and he trains at Atos Jiu Jitsu. And he does a hybrid school where he can either do it online or he can go in person. And for me, the greatest thing is being able to bring him to training and just see his career opening up in jiu-jitsu. And I think he wants to do that professionally. I think he wants to be on the competitive adult circuit. But seeing him, he's already got accolades. It's funny. He's like we as parents always want our kids to do better than us, right? And my kids have already outdone me. I mean, Navy SEAL is cool, but my kids have already outdone everything. My 19-year-old, they just won the championship. They're D1 national champions. I never was a D1 national champion. Oh, you know what? I got to put something out because there's some misnomer information that has been circulating around NSW from my entire time that I've been in. And I don't want people coming back and be like, "Oh, that's a lie." I never was a world champion Muay Thai fighter. Everyone says that I am. Everyone thinks that I am. People talk on podcasts and this and that. I never was. I fought a lot. I had 11 fights, semi-pro fights. Never was a world champion. So, but going back to my kid. He's a D1 national champion rugby player. I got another kid who's a 4-time world champion in jiu-jitsu. These kids have already outdone everything that I've done in my mind. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, Navy SEAL, that's a great job. That's a great accolade to have. But these guys, they're on the precipice of doing so much more and doing so much in my mind better. And in the door, the stage is wide open for them to do whatever it is. So I love being in a position where I can see this formulating right in front of my eyes. I love that. That's the biggest thing that probably gives me the most joy.
Well, I mean, you nailed it right on the head because that is, people asked me and I couldn't really describe what I do because I'm a serial entrepreneur and I've got a ton of things going, and about 70% of them are just like hopeful someday. But
Hmm.
it's still hard for me to describe in a short elevator pitch like who I am, what I do, and to actually give it context. But then I was realizing, like I'm a dad. Like
Yeah.
all that other stuff is just what pays the bills and what you have to do to show up and put the roof over your head and the food in your belly. But your number one job is being a parent. So for you to say that, it's great, man.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, and and kudos to you for being a good dad as well. So.
You should talk to my two children and tell them that too. I think I'd appreciate that because they're 8 and 5 right now, and they just do not want to listen. They're like, "Yeah, can you get me an apple?" I'm like, "How do we ask?" It's like
Yeah.
expectations.
Exactly. It's the funniest thing, like, and you're experiencing it already right now. You're no longer cool after like a certain age with kids, and like you could say one thing and it's hey, I'm giving you great information, but then somebody else tells them the exact same thing that you said, and they're like, oh yeah, I just heard this. It's like, word, I've been telling you that for years. Now you like that? Okay, cool. Whatever. Go ahead, do your thing. That's all you.
It's funny that you say that because I still get that crap with my dad. So, which my father, but my
Yeah.
dad, I'll tell him something that's related to my background as a SEAL so that I at least have some carnal knowledge of what I'm talking about. And he's just like, okay.
Right.
But then he'll meet you or talk to you and you'll say the same exact thing. And he's like, really? And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like, seriously? The one thing I give
Yeah.
knowledge on and you're not. So I get it,
Yeah.
man. I totally get
No.
it.
Yep. That's so funny.
Can
That
you
is
talk
funny.
at all about what you're actually doing right now as we speak?
Yeah. Well, so I'm fortunate to be, well, if you know already from before, I was in Terminal List season one. I played Chief Ray Cortez, so opposite of Chris Pratt. Although I'm not like a main character, I'm a supporting character for him in the series. Unfortunate, I got killed in the first episode, but it was a glorious death. Chris Pratt bringing me out to the helicopter. I'm dying, and then the camera fades away and I die. You know what I mean? But it's very ambiguous about whether or not if I die or not. I came back in a flashback in episode 3. But in this series, this is the Terminal List Dark Wolf. This is a spin-off off of the series, and what this does is it sets up the storyline of Ben Edwards and Rafe Hastings. So Taylor Kitsch and Tom Hopper. Awesome guys, awesome actors. And I can't really go too much into detail about what is happening, but there is going to be a scene where myself, Jared Shaw, this other guy named Bruni, another guy, Shipwreck, and Chris Pratt, we come in and we save the day for Taylor Kitsch, who did some incredible slaying of some opposition that came to his house to get to him. So it's going to be kind of cool. But then there's other things that are in there as well. And yeah, I'm blessed to be part of the series. Hopefully, it'll open some doors and it'll allow me to be able to get some other credits. But right now, that's what I'm doing.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds exciting. So when that came out, because obviously Jack Carr and I served at Team 7 together.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he starts exploding out there with his books and that. I'm like, oh. And I have no time to read. So everybody's talking so much about these books. And I'm just like, I have young kids. So I'm like, And all of a sudden he ships me the entire package of them. And I'm like, oh, great. So I have no time to read. And I have the
Wow.
whole fleet. Now I got to dig in. And it's so unique to see guys that are just so They're very versatile, multifaceted.
Yeah.
They're
Yep.
incredible.
Yeah.
And so
I'll tell you what. You can have the books, and so this is what I've done. I have hard copy books, but what I do is I just listen to the audiobook, and then I'd be like, okay, I read the book. And there's so much time when you're driving in between, from place to place or whatever, or you're working out, you can listen to something anytime, and like, or maybe even before you go to bed. And that's where I find my time. I remember the first 2 or 3 Terminal List books, all the different ones. I snapped through those things in less than like 2 or 3 days, each one of them, because I was just like so hooked in. Like, Jack, the level of detail in the books is so crazy. The TV show is awesome. The books,
mm,
Oh man, you can't even put a number on it. That's how good they are. So
See, that's
love
the thing
them.
is I have to read. I can't just listen to it because then I get my phone in my hand and then there's work and things popping and notifications and I'm like, I don't have enough self-discipline to not
Yeah,
mess with my phone when my phone is in my hand. So,
yeah,
it's like for me, I'm just going to pick up a book. That way I have some time, some space to actually do it. But that's
yeah,
pretty rad, man.
yeah.
Well,
For me, if I read a book, I'm about to fall asleep. Like I'm terrible with it. Like that's the easiest way to put me to sleep. Even if the material is exciting, I'll fall asleep. So anyway.
yeah, it's funny. I want that your disclaimer about being a world champion fighter. So I remember hearing about you being a fighter. I never heard world champion, but I had
Yeah.
heard, Trinidad fighter, all this good stuff. And it was really when mixed martial arts were not humongous yet.
Hmm.
It's like not the big fad of MMA and UFC and all that stuff is when roughly when it was coming around pretty big in like 2005, 6. But that's when I heard about you. And I was talking with another guy who's still active, so I won't mention his name, but
Sure.
Teabags. And
Oh, tea bags.
yeah,
Yep.
and he was like, he's a hardcore fighter. And I was like, oh, yeah. And I was a new guy. I was like, I'll fight him. And he's like, really? I was like, no, no, no.
Yeah. No,
So
it's
that was
I
my,
I I I was very fortunate to I don't know if you know all of the story. So when I came to America, I, I looked like Urkel, Steve Urkel, right? Had the glasses. I had the Sears and Roebucks, like super cardboard jeans. My dad wasn't hooking me up to make me look cool or anything like that. And people used to make fun of my accent when I would be walking down the hallway in school. Kids would be scoring my books, and it was just kind of like the old cartoons in the comic books, like the guy who's getting the sand kicked in his face. That was kind of like me. And then like I told my dad, um, you got to let me do something. I can't be getting beat up by girls in school. Literally, girls were beating me up in school. And so then I started with Taekwondo. Then that went into when I moved to New York City. I started learning Okinawan Goju-Ryu. Then I started learning Filipino stick and knife. Then Pencak Silat. Then Capoeira. Then I started with Muay Thai. I did a little bit of Jiu-Jitsu in between as well. But then I started doing Muay Thai, and then Muay Thai was my love. I was able to do that for many years up until before I just joined the Navy. And then, like I still do it. I still train. And I think that's probably part of my, people are asking me like, oh, what's the secret? I think that's probably part of the secret. It's just I keep moving.
mm,
And, but I'll tell you what, there's some days where I wake up and I'm like, oiling the joints. The
yeah.
joints need it. They definitely need it. So,
Oh yeah, that's awesome,
yeah,
man. That's
yeah, bro.
it's really interesting. You're right, though. You do have to keep moving. I mean, your body's made to be in motion, so
Hmm.
that they call it sedentary for a reason. You sit around, and I've done it before, man. I've gotten to the point where I was overworking myself and I'm just like forgetting my workouts and not doing anything. And you're like, for me, I don't get fat. I just shrivel away. So then I look like I'm 15 years old without a beard, and I'm like, this is not good. So
Yeah,
uh, kudos for you, man. Well, keep at it, dude. We're gonna push you out to everybody and let everybody know what you're doing. Really follow you in your journey, and then we'll put up a
sure.
list of things that you're doing currently, so people can get in touch with you should they need your services or there's new opportunities. Because I do know a lot of people that are getting into the world of making movies, documentaries, unique things, and we'll be connecting you with them.
Hmm.
One of the most important things that I always end with for this is something special. It's really bringing that personal side touch in. So, like a hero story. You served for over 20 years, and I've asked this question several times to guests. Every guest is a special operator, and they're all like, "Whew, that's a hard one," or "It's too many to tell." So instead of just saying a hero story as somebody that you served with that maybe gave their life for this country, just tell us a hero story of a story that people wouldn't know, something that's given you something, a meaning, a purpose in life, or moved you in a certain way. Just a simple story that people would have never heard and maybe never will hear.
Probably the one thing that has been, I think, the most poignant thing in my career was people may have heard of him, may not have heard of him. There was a brand new guy named Alex Gane. And I was his sea daddy, and having that responsibility of being the sea daddy of a newly minted SQT student coming to a command, it's there's a lot to it. But when you have kids, or when you've mentored other people in the past before, it's not difficult to do. Alex was the greatest guy. He had like an amazing sense of humor. Everyone liked him, especially from the guys that had come, that were new guys that were coming from SQT to the command. He had a good reputation in terms of who he was. And one thing that I really liked and it resonated with me is because I'm an immigrant to this country. He also was an immigrant to this country as well. He's the first Iranian born Navy SEAL, that came out of, basic underwater demolition SEAL training. I had a great time mentoring him, had a great time working with him, had a great time just being there when he was frustrated, didn't know what to do or whatever. I love to be in that position of being there for him and or with him, and seeing his growth. He was one of our medics. The guy was great. I really enjoyed my time working with him. And when the events unfolded that he expired, it was pretty tough. Team guys definitely have certain reactions. Just to paint a picture, when the accident happened to him, I remember he got hit. I'm literally standing right next to him, probably about 4 feet away from him, 3 feet away from him. He looks at me, he says, "Oh crap," and he goes down. And to me, I was like, oh snap, like what am I gonna do right now? Jump on him, ceasefire, Corman, cutting his clothes off. I'm talking to him like he's still alive. He's already lost everything. He's gone, right? But I didn't care. Myself and another guy who's still active duty, and then another guy, Keith, we all start working on him. Then another guy who's out, Monty, he came in, all start working on him. And I'm sitting there and I'm holding his hand and I'm talking to him the whole entire time. They're working on him for like 45 minutes, call life flight, bring him over to, level 1 trauma facility, still working on him there before they actually called it. For me, that was the first time where guys pass away all the time. You know what I mean? But this one was literally right in front of me. And it was kind of like, when you have that pet egg, the science project or the project in school where you have to take care of this egg. This was my little egg that I was taking care of. And it was difficult for me, but I looked at some of the reactions of some of, our brothers. Guys took to drinking, guys that were angry. I was the first guy raising my hand up to go see the chaplain. I was the first guy wanting to go see the psych. And I just knew that it was healthier to do that as opposed to compartmentalizing, which is something that we're very good at. We're very good at compartmentalizing. But I just knew that this was not the way. And I wanted to make sure that I honored him well. And I brought him home. I brought him home to his mom and his sister. And I'm still in contact with them to this day. I speak to his mom all the time. And, that guy, you don't always get the opportunity to honor somebody like that. And I felt that was my job, to honor him. And like every year I call his mom, every year I see his mom. When she came to the command and then they did a dedication ceremony out over at the CQC facility out there in not Camp Morena, but the other place.
In Tennessee, Memphis?
No, in San Diego.
Oh, La Posta.
La Posta, yeah. So they did a dedication of one of the facilities there for him. For me, it was good for me to be able to be there, to interface with them and just show my continued dedication to them and to their family. And that's I think if anything, that's probably the one of the most poignant things that I have in my career. I mean, there's a lot of great stories in my career, but this one in particular, that is a continuing effort. It's as long as I'm alive, I'm never not going to be in contact with her. And, I hope that, in some way, shape, and or form, I hope that that is sort of comforting for her. She's still crushed by it. I mean, how could you not be? She's still crushed by it. And I just hope that maybe if there's anything that I can do in terms of like helping to alleviate some of that pressure from her, I hope that I am. And I hope that I'm not, causing her to feel stressed even more. But I'm hoping that I'm doing like a good thing. So if anything, that's probably something that a story for me it's a continuing effort, and that it's something that I'm proud of. I'm sad that what happened, but I mean, you and I both know that if we had to do it all over again, we'd probably sign the paper and go and do it all over again. We know the risk, we know what's potential the potential for something extreme happening, but I don't think we're thinking about it in those terms. We're thinking about it, it's like it's just kind of like the title of the book, The Men, the Mission, Me. And that's what the way that I thought about the job. And, I'm sure that's the way he thought about it. That's the way you and I think about it. So that is still part of the continuing mission for me. So,
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, brother. And I'll tell you, reaching out to that family, continuing to do that is the absolute key. And because there's a time where everybody does that, and then it becomes a lull and everybody kind of falls off, and then there's very few that continually pick up the pace and do that. So I know that's super appreciated. Little story on that. So 2009, I was deployed to Basra, Iraq with Team 7. Our SEA at the time was Brian Behringer.
oh yeah.
Great dude who also passed away. And I remember we were at this camp right on the Iranian border, and Brian Behringer named the camp, our team guy camp, Camp Alex Gane.
Oh wow.
So we had his picture up, and it was the camp, just like, Mark Lee out in Ramadi. And it was a very special thing. I never got to meet Alex, but I heard his story when we presented the camp, and then the family got the pictures and that. So
Wow.
just know that he was honored outside of, he's honored by other teams that didn't necessarily know him as well. So,
Wow, that's awesome.
yeah, man.
Good stuff.
Wow. Well, I knew for a fact that when you got out of the service, you would crush it. I wasn't sure if you were going to be in music videos or you're going to be a professional dancer or what, but I always knew that you were always going to continue to move it. And I've been following you and watching your kids just absolutely annihilate what they're doing. And there may be a few times that I've been jealous. I'm not going to lie. But, yeah, I'm super. It's exciting to see you do this, man. I'm so pumped for you, and I just love watching you and following your journey, man. So
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. We're gonna blast you out. Go ahead, bro.
I got one other thing. So I have a partner, and I'm developing, we're starting to get the idea of developing a lifestyle brand. It's going to be called 5 on Black.
Okay.
And when that comes out, I'll let you know. I'll blast that out. You'll see like on my social media or whatever it is, but it's going to be called 5 on Black. And the idea is mixing the cultures of hardcore, punk rock, skateboard, fight world, but from the minority eye. And because I've been fortunate to have sang in a punk rock band, have skateboarded for years, and well, not anymore. I'll probably break my hip if I do that, and then, have been in the fight world for a long time, and then coming from the operator standpoint as a minority. So it's a definitely a unique space. I have my own style. And so my partner and I, we're starting to put something together, and that'll be coming out soon. We're getting our promo pack, getting that out and ready here soon. But I'll keep you clued up on that. 5 on BLK. That's what it's going to be called. 5 on BLK.
5 on BLK. Yeah. I'll definitely be a brand ambassador. I'll buy some swag. I'll jump it out of planes, jump it off of stuff, and then skateboard. I still skateboard religiously, so
okay.
I can't. That's my jam. So
Yeah.
I like to hang out with 5-year-olds. Apparently, that's what my wife tells me. But it's just, skateboarding is so important because it really is so unique to teaching you about life. You fall 1,000 times before you get the trick right. You're always
Yep.
broken. You're always hurting, yet you're not complaining. You're trying it again. So that's so
Yeah.
much to life there. 5 on Black. All right. Well, when you get that ready to rock and roll, let's get you back on for a mod 2 on the show so
Word.
that we can jam that out and talk. But for right now, everybody go to jamesgroupllc.com to keep in touch with AJ James. Go to his LinkedIn and his IG, which we'll post out after this. And again, thanks for being here and giving us your time, brother.
Of course, it was absolutely my pleasure. Like I feel blessed that you even thought that I was worthy of coming onto the show. So thank you.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, man. Cool.
Frogman.